guys, and welcome back to UnJaded Jade. Welcome to a comprehensive guide to successfully studying classics for school or uni or even in your free time. At the end of the day, I am no expert, but I've always loved reading. I love classics, and I did study English literature to AS, and I did get an A at the end of the year, which is like the highest you can get. So yeah, today I'm just going to explore some tips for you guys on how to study classics, how to revise them, how to break it up. I completely appreciate that it can be quite overwhelming to study a classic book, like how are you meant to write an essay on a character when you've got a novel that's so dense, and how are you meant to pick a quote when there are like 500, and that's what we're going to explore today. Also guys, this video is a little bit of a dream come true because today's video is actually sponsored by Penguin, as in Penguin, the like major publisher of so many incredible books. And today's video is a celebration of Penguin's new edition of Frankenstein. And to me, this is so fitting, okay, because Frankenstein is one of my favourite classics ever, and it was actually the classic that I chose to study for my English literature coursework. So yeah, I actually compared Frankenstein to the Bloody Chamber in my English lit coursework. I explored the theme of the corruption of innocence, which I chose to do. But yeah, Penguin have this gorgeous new Frankenstein edition, which is a lot nicer than my old copy was. I love it when books have different colour pages, like I feel like it looks so fancy. And it has like these cool tinted edges. I don't know if you can see. But yeah, it is somehow the 200th year anniversary of the book Frankenstein, and this new edition of the Penguin original series is gorgeous. And if you've never read Frankenstein before, or if you want to get into classics but you've kind of never read one before, this one is a very easy, nice first read because the story is just so like gripping. It's very rich to study, which is why I chose to do it for my coursework. Okay, so on to the tips. My first tip for successfully studying classics for school is to read the book for fun first. And for fun, I know, for some people the idea of reading a classic novel is literally the furthest thing from fun ever, and I completely understand that, and so many of my friends really aren't into reading at all. But I think if you really want to do well at studying this classic, the best thing to do is to read it in your own time first, because it kind of allows you to have a much deeper understanding of the novel as a whole. And in lessons, if you know you're like having to read a chapter at a time or whatever, you're able to appreciate the whole story and therefore like pick up on like foreshadowing, or maybe the author's alluded to something that's going to happen later, which you only know because you've read the book yourself first. But even just the idea of reading it for fun can really just switch the whole way that you go about studying this classic, because for some people, being forced to read makes you hate it, or makes you like hate a novel. Whereas when you go out of your way to choose to read it, it kind of opens your mind to the book. There is so much wisdom and so much fun in reading classics, so yeah, try and read it for fun yourself first. Number 2 is context. Now, I personally am rubbish at history. Like, I have hardly any general knowledge, which is so bad, and I do try and improve it, but I'm not very knowledgeable on history. I didn't do it for GCSE or A-level or anything. Learning about the context at which a book was written, I think, is so important in unraveling more layers of understanding of a novel. Whether you're learning about the ideas of religion at the time, sexism and the role of women, so whether it's like learning about the 1920s, when I was studying The Great Gatsby, I literally realised how little I knew about the 1920s and the time after World War I, and all the like flappers and speakeasies and that incredible world. That helped open so much of this book and the characters. So yeah, or Frankenstein, it literally was the Gothic era. So yes, do your contextual research. You could even read more classics set at that time, just to improve your general understanding. Okay, number 3 is chapter summaries. And this is so important, especially when you have a flipping massive, dense classic text. Exhibit A is Wuthering Heights. First time I read it, Hated it. But over time, I read it again and I read it again because I had to study it for school. And although I still sometimes get confused with the family tree because everyone just kind of gets with everyone and people have the same names and there are two storylines sort of running parallel to one another, I love it. Like, it's such an incredible text. But for this, I had to have chapter summaries for myself, just for reference, just to be able to see like what actually happened in each of those chapters. For revision purposes, it's great to allow you to quickly see the whole novel in broken down plot summaries of each chapter. You can kind of appreciate foreshadowing, like a massive event happens in the first 2 chapters and oh god, that foreshadows something later on in the book. You can use Spark Notes or online resources to help you make those plot summaries, and although it's time consuming, I think for every single chapter you should try and find some key quotes. So when you're reading the book, you can put some little post-it notes in, or if you're one of those people who likes to just wreck your book with a highlighter, do it. Just highlight some key quotes, write them out in your chapter summaries, make posters, mind maps, that kind of thing. And also maybe some key themes I think is very useful. Number 4, very similar, but make some character summaries. So take each of the main characters and maybe even some of the very minor characters, because you know exam boards, they like to chuck in some random characters and whatnot. So yeah, just take a character, get all the key quotes that you can find from this character that either aid your understanding of this character or of a general theme that the character helps contribute towards. So I just found this thing from Othello, and I put some context things onto this poster and I hung this in my room. Just some short points on gender, racism, war at the time. Quick, easy revision. So I just found this from when I studied Wuthering Heights last year. So here I just wrote out some key quotes from the entire book, which I liked. And then I color coded them based on theme, which you can do as well. And I remember I hung this up in my room. Then I have another one for The Great Gatsby, which is basically the same thing, divided into themes. And for these 2 texts, Wuthering Heights and The Great Gatsby, I actually had to compare them. So for me, the color coding was good to be able to use quotes to compare for like the same theme. So here we go, I found this from when I was analysing Frankenstein. So religion and science, I wrote some key quotes. Her hair was the brightest living gold and, despite the poverty of her clothing, seemed to set a crown of distinction on her head. Number 5, mind maps. So for other subjects, mind maps are not my thing, they don't really help me memorise stuff, but for English, mind maps are the best way of developing ideas. So put something in the middle, a character for example. You could even test whether you know quotes and write quotes from memory around a mind map of that character. You can just keep spiraling off of the mind map, keep developing those ideas. And going along with expanding on your ideas is discussion. Honestly, for English, discussion is one of the most powerful things in lessons. 100%, as scary as it is, put up your hand and contribute to those discussions on the novel, because it will improve your critical thinking, your understanding of the characters, the themes. There is no wrong in English literature. Maybe there are ideas which are like underdeveloped, but nothing is wrong, you know? Just try it, just try contributing. Equally appreciate that your opinion is not the only opinion, and it can actually be one of the most useful things to hear the opinions of others. So for our coursework, we did a mind map thing. So here was mine on Frankenstein and the Bloody Chamber. And corruption of innocence is in the middle, which is the topic I chose to do. I literally love that topic, it's so good. And I basically passed it around my class of like 5 people, and they wrote some ideas and sort of springboarded off there. And from that, helped me develop my own ideas, so yeah. Going along with that, number 6 is alternative interpretations. So for GCSE, you can be a bit more general, you can be like, some people may alternatively argue that yeah, like some people might argue that the monster is cruel and should be punished and should be killed, and like no one likes the monster in Frankenstein. But oh, other people might also argue that, you know, he's actually quite innocent and his innocence was only corrupted because of all the cruelty of the villagers, etc. And if you're at A-level, you can consider some more critical responses, consider Marxist and feminist responses, and just kind of appreciate how you can read things differently. That will get you more marks and open up new levels of understanding. Number 7, perspective and narration. So pay attention to the way that a book is written. Like, why has the author decided to make it first person, make it third person? Why have they got multiple narrators? Like, why? Think about it. Is it written in the past? Present? What's the form like? Like Frankenstein is actually epistolary, so it's got some letters going on in there. Why is that? The Great Gatsby is written in retrospect, which is very interesting because it's almost like the story is distorted because it's being looked back upon. Like, how does the reader know if aspects of the story have been changed by the character Nick, who's like narrating? Because, you know, he's looking back on it, he could change things, make himself seem better. He'll be presenting characters with the knowledge of events that have happened later on. So how can he write them completely objectively? It makes you wonder, what is the truth in this book? Like, is Gatsby really that great? Yeah, it's just all these sort of interesting things that you can add to your understanding of a book. And number 8, this one's tailored more to revision and exams, and that is how to remember quotes. Once again, posters are a great thing. I made this for Othello with some cute like drawings and stuff and some quotes. I also used to do a lot of flashcards, so on one side, like, oh, a quote for this theme or a quote from this character, and then on the other side, test myself on the quote. You can also write the quote and miss out words and fill in the words in your head. You could write like the first word of a quote and then the rest, you could just do the first letter of each word in the quote. So when you look at it, you'd have to fill in the words where each letter is. I think that's quite good as well. Those are some of my tips for studying classics. I know classics can be a bit more difficult to read, especially if you're used to like young adult novels or just not reading in general. That's cool. I would say stick with it and get through a few chapters, get into it, read the chapters all together. Don't just read like 2 pages and give up, because obviously that's not going to be that fun and you won't really get into it from 2 pages. Some of my favourite classics: Frankenstein, To Kill a Mockingbird, always a great one. The Great Gatsby is like a modern classic but is also great. Pride and Prejudice is a classic. And yeah, just be open-minded, I guess. Also, there's no shame in watching the film if you are really confused with the plot or you just don't really know what's going on in general. Watch the film, watch movie adaptations. I also recently watched a trailer for the film they're making called Mary Shelley, and it has Elle Fanning in. I don't know if you know who Elle Fanning is, but she is a really great actress. And even though films might not always be 100% accurate, it's just fun to watch them and improve another layer of understanding of a text and context. So yeah, the biggest thank you to Penguin for not only sending me free books, which was my dream when I was about 14 or 15 and I had like a book Instagram account and I literally dreamt of a publisher sending me free stuff, so thank you. And I do hope that this helped you in some way with studying classics. Stick with it, you can do it. You don't need to be a literary goddess or god. Thank you so much for watching. Please give it a like if it did help you out, because I did spend about 4 or 5 hours today like going through all my old English stuff. So yeah, check out the video I filmed for Penguin's channel all about how to make studying classics more fun. And feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.